everybody. Good evening. This is a beautiful Tuesday evening here in Nairobi. And yes, we are back with a bang. I'm so excited for today. Well, we took a break from our mental health chats. This is Mindspace. But we are back, and I'm so excited to be hosting today's session. And I'm so excited because May is a mental health awareness month, and this is the best time to just talk about mental health. And I'm hosting an amazing guest, and I see he's here, so I'm going to just request him to join me so that we can start and have this conversation. So today we are talking about post-traumatic stress disorder, that is PTSD. And so I'm so excited because my guest today has written a book called The Road to Mental Wellness. And he basically shares his journey and struggle with anxiety, depression, and PTSD. So if you're here because you'd like to know what all this is about, you are in the right place. And so just excited. Let me look for my guest. So remember, if you have questions, please feel free to send questions in, and feel free to ask if you have any question regarding today. Let's learn so that we can know how to best support each other and how to best support our loved ones. Because the truth is, some of us have loved ones who are going through mental health chat. And yes, hi John, how are you?
I'm not too bad. How are you?
Fine, thank you. So nice to see you.
Yeah, it's wonderful to see you as well.
Yes, and
Thank
I'm
you
so
for having me
excited.
on.
You're welcome, and I'm so excited that we could have this chat today because I was just sharing just before you came in that May is a mental health awareness month. And yes, this is the best time to take, this time and educate ourselves about mental health. And I'm so happy that you agreed to come and talk to us today about post-traumatic stress disorder. And I'm so happy that we're having this conversation. So welcome also for those who are joining us on live, and those who will be watching this later. We also appreciate you, and we hope that this will be a meaningful conversation. And please feel free to ask us your questions, be it in this live or even after you watch this later. Feel free to leave us your comments and questions. So John, we always love to start with a word of prayer, and I'm going to pray, then we're going to get started. All right.
Sure.
So thank you, Lord, for this wonderful day and this Tuesday evening for me, and also for John. This is probably afternoon, and thank you for giving us this time to also be alive and to have this conversation. And we pray, Lord, for everyone who will be joining us, Lord, may you give us a wonderful time. And this we pray in Jesus' name. Amen. So to begin with today, John, would like first of all to know who John is, where you are logging in from. So please introduce yourself briefly and let us get to know you.
Well, firstly, my name is John Arenburg, and I hail from the very beautiful province of Nova Scotia in Canada, where we enjoy 4 seasons instead of one hot or cold day. For myself, I have 2 children, and I'm an ex-firefighter. I'm a veteran of 15 years, and worked in long-term care for quite a long time. And now I'm off work with, been diagnosed with post-traumatic stress disorder. And since then, I've been advocating for mental health, and became a mental health blogger and wellness coach, and I have a counseling background. So those things all go together well. And so I've been kind of writing about my journey and having other people along for the ride in terms of becoming contributing writers like yourself. And hopefully we can grow a community that's inclusive and with one goal to help those who are fighting mental health concerns.
Amazing, amazing. Thank you, John. And I love what you're doing. I mean, I follow you on social media and I see the amazing things you do. Your blog, it's very informative, and for someone who follows you and reads what you write, it's amazing. It's totally amazing work that you're doing right there. So And I know that you've been working on your book, The Road to Mental Wellness. Would love to also to know about that, what the book is about, and also you could mention whether it's out and if someone can, whoever wants to get the book, where they can get it. Would love to hear that. So please tell us about that.
Sure. Well, it's still in the stages of being finalized, I would say. The editor and I are having the back and forth, and it's gone really well, but it's really been 3 years in the making. And it was written simply because so many of my own long mental health journey. But basically what it's about is it starts out in childhood and tries to explain the challenges that surround somebody whose behaviors are manifesting in a negative sense. And back in the school days, that was kind of tough in a way because at that particular juncture, they didn't ask the right questions about what was producing the behavior. So the fundamental question is always, why is the behavior being produced? And to understand that behavior always happens for a reason. And then once you realize that those two questions need an answer, then you can start looking at the source. So, in other words, I was angry and I had quite a few outbursts and things like that. So, but as I get older and started to understand more and more depth what was going on inside, I look back now at sort of 2020 and realize that that particular road was probably manifested itself out of depression, really. And so that's how it starts off. And it's sort of a book that chronicles my own life, but what parallels with that is to try to put together a map of life for somebody who's potentially mentally ill or mentally ill, from the very beginning till, well, in my case, present day. And I'm hoping that that particular approach resonates with the reader and also provides inspiration to keep going, because throughout the whole book, it talks about the ups and downs and the ebbs and flow of my life in terms of me running smack into the walls of hard times and what I had to do to become better. So the mantra in the book really is what do I have to do to get better? And so when you ask yourself that question, what you need to do to get better. Just an example is when I asked myself that question. So one of the things was exercise, for example. So and you have using that as a catalyst for change in my life and my mental well-being. I really did notice a difference, and sometimes it's designed to tackle those hard questions. So, like in my case, I had to leave the life that I had known. I'd gotten married, I had children, I had a house, but all that stuff was very wasn't really conducive to my well-being, and it was tearing me apart slowly. So I got to a juncture in my life where I had to say, it's do or die sort of thing, and that's what the book is about. It's about how things could have changed if you had if the adults in the room had the fortitude or the conviction to say, well, what's really going on here? He's angry, so they punished me instead of looked after it. So it just kind of fed on itself, and then as I got older, into adulthood, I understood it better. As I said, but it was interesting because the ups and downs that I've experienced were both heartbreaking, difficult, and worrisome. But every decision that I made was the absolute right one to do. So the
Yeah.
decision to get out of my relationship wasn't a decision to leave my children. It was a decision to make sure that they had a great dad,
Mm.
a well dad that could help them negotiate through life and grow up and be productive citizens. So
Mm-hmm.
that's kind of what the book talks about, and it
Okay.
um, designed to give both the reader, the
Mm.
people who are also suffering from mental health conditions, but also hopefully people who aren't, and they can get a better view of what goes on
Mm.
um,
Mm-hmm.
from the view of somebody who's mentally ill.
Wow. Oh, I think that book is very rich. I can't wait to personally get hold on of the book and just get to read because what you've shared is very sounds like very important things that people need to know, and especially anyone who's raising a child,
Mm-hmm.
they need to know. And for me, why one of the things I'm so passionate about mental health is because I want, just like you, I want people to understand first of all, what are the signs, like just as simple as when someone is not okay, when someone is depressed, what are the signs? Because just as you said, you were punished, instead of being supported, but it's because mostly the people around us, they lack that knowledge. They don't understand the science, and most especially parents.
Mm-hmm.
So this is why there's so much work to be done in terms of the mental health space and creating enough awareness. So, and I'm just so happy. That's a very rich book, and I believe it will be an eye opener and also enlighten many. So that's a wonderful. So now going into our topic for today, John. Um, I realized actually that many people don't know about post-traumatic stress disorder. I had some people who share, when I shared the poster, they're like, "What is that? I mean, what does PTSD mean?" So many people do not actually know. And
Mm-hmm.
so, would you kindly take us through that introduction and tell us what is post-traumatic stress disorder?
Well, I understand that it's well understood here in my country, and actually out of the richer nations, Canada has the highest rates of PTSD out of those nations.
Mm. Mm-hmm.
And so, what post-traumatic stress disorder is, it's a normal reaction, stress reaction to a horrific event. So, for example, that could mean like sexual assault, for instance, the
Mm-hmm.
unexpected death of a loved one, or in my case, 15 years in the fire service and working in long-term care, I was
Yeah.
constantly inundated with death and destruction and violence because the long-term
Mm-hmm.
care setting that I was in looked after people with extreme behavior problems,
Yeah.
and comes hand in hand. So essentially, it's a it's the constant running of your fight, flight, or freeze response. I'm not sure if you're familiar with that,
Mm-hmm.
but
Yes.
there's two regions in the brain called your amygdala, and
Mm-hmm.
those are responsible for the fight or flight response. So
Mm-hmm.
essentially, well, your brain's trying to make sense of what's going on around it in terms of the tragedy. Um,
Mm-hmm.
so if a firefighter, for example, has seen a burn victim, that's so outside the experience or the normal realm of your experience, that your brain just goes haywire trying to figure out
Mm-hmm.
how to protect itself.
Yeah.
And what happens is that's sort of a what would be called a critical incident, and then critical incident stress, and that's sort of the first precursor to post-traumatic stress if it's not dealt with. So what happens from there is if a slow accumulation, which is what the fire service experiences and
Mm-hmm.
emergency services. So you've seen this, you see that, you go to this call and this tragedy,
Mm-hmm.
and
Yeah.
so it's accumulation. And what that does, that fight or flight response, is basically like somebody threw the switch in gear and broke it off, and
Mm-hmm.
and you're not really able to regulate those behaviors. And what happens as a result is that you become dysregulated, and your fight or flight response becomes heightened. So there's hypervigilance and there's higher startle response. Of course, then there's irritability, and then there's trust issues, and there's a whole multitude of problems.
Yeah.
But there is a neuroscience basis for it, and your amygdalas are malformed essentially. So what happens is right here is your prefrontal cortex, which is you, right? Your decision making, your ability to regulate your behavior. That all takes a backseat to your fight or flight response, which is a sort of a more prehistoric region of the brain that controls emotion and things in the limbic system is called. So essentially, you're wired wrong. You become wired to be sensitive to. So I mean, why I spend a lot of time isolating, for example, because a lot of the noise and the sudden, like somebody drops a dish, smashes it, or laughs loud, or crowds stuff. You're always in a state of feeling threatened.
Yeah.
So when you're always feeling a state of threatened, the possibilities are endless as to what might bring about the post-traumatic symptoms. Nightmares and flashbacks of the incidents that you saw or incident. So, which you lose sleep over and only exacerbates, all the other symptoms that go with it.
Yeah.
So I was just simply, I was diagnosed in 2018 and still haven't been able to work as a result.
2018, you say? 2018, right? Okay. Wow. Now, looking at what you've actually mentioned, I'm wondering what are the causes, what are the outlined, what are the main causes, or what are the causes of PTSD?
Well, as I had mentioned before, it's usually anything that's out of the realm of normal experience. But I mean, that could be a multitude of things. Someone could assault you in the face once, and you could end up with PTSD. And other people. So I'll give you an example. Roughly 20% of the emergency services suffer from post-traumatic stress. Not everybody does, and it depends on a number of things. How you're wired genetically, neurologically. So there's a whole range of possibilities as to why you would be susceptible, and then of course those things that happen or occur to one, violence and destruction and death, and even like constantly inundating yourself with the news may cause like a traumatic response.
Yeah.
So that has serious implications for a lot of people in the world.
Okay.
So is there anything else that you would like to elaborate on that in terms of what causes it? Or?
Sorry, what? I think I didn't hear the last part.
Okay. What I was saying, is there anything else that you would like your audience to know, like in terms of what causes the...
Oh yeah. So okay, I really wanted to hear the causes because and I like what you have said that sometimes when you go through something, you said something out of the ordinary.
Well, and what's more relevant to the everyday person, is like domestic violence, sexual assault. Those things can be very traumatic for some, and almost everybody who experiences those has to work through something on one level or another. And at very worst, people become post-traumatic and are reclusive and not able to deal with the public and don't trust people anymore because of their I mean, if you're constantly beat around, it's really difficult to put your faith in people again, right? So it's not like I'm post-traumatic because of my emergency service. But there's a whole reason, or a whole multitude of reasons why one could become you know,
Yeah.
ill with
So,
PTSD, post-traumatic stress.
wow. So this means also if a child goes through a traumatic experience, they could develop PTSD as well, right?
Mm-hmm. Absolutely, yeah. They usually
Wow.
end up going on, if it's a multitude of traumas, it's usually called complex PTSD, which is
Yeah.
formulated most. Hi.
So sorry. My internet went out. So sorry. Yeah, I'm so
That's
sorry. But
okay.
yeah, but I'm glad we're back. So you were telling us about that children could actually also go through PTSD,
Hmm.
if they go through something traumatic as well.
Right. Well, what a lot of people in our country used to say formally is that, oh, children are resilient, they'll bounce back. But
Mm,
in reality, the neurological development of children is more
yeah,
susceptible to sensitivity in those
yeah.
regards.
Mm,
For example, like teenagers, their prefrontal cortex is developing
hmm.
so exponentially that the only other time in life that parallels that is infancy, and
Mm,
the data clearly shows that if you have a developing brain,
yeah.
so say even marijuana could potentially damage that. So
Mm,
imagine what physical assault in one form or another, or a verbal assault would do.
yes.
So
Mm,
children, firstly, aren't as resilient as once thought,
yeah.
and the other thing is they don't have the communication skills or
Yeah.
the maturity to get a
Hmm.
good grip on what it is that's bothering them. So
Yes.
from my experience, both personally and otherwise,
Mm,
that oftentimes that when kids can't work through whatever problem that's bothering them because they don't know what it is,
yeah.
it can oftentimes manifest itself as anger
Yeah, that's
uh,
right.
or withdrawal. So
Mm,
I mean, it's kind of the default position until
hmm.
you can start to work with it and understand what's going on. So there's post traumatic stress. From what I had a trauma counselor once tell me that um, it's more prevalent in first world countries,
Hmm.
and as we tragically a lot of other countries have a lot of
Yeah.
instability, violence, and war, and there's sort of I guess there's sort of when you're immersed in that kind of environment, it's not as
Mm,
horrific. But he also pointed out that the smaller the department you're in, the less calls you have, the more likely you are to have post-traumatic stress. And you're not used to those things, right? There's no frequency as to which you can get used to it.
yeah.
So that's not to say that everybody in the world um, from any country doesn't get post-traumatic stress, because I've talked to people from all over the place who are trying to figure it out, so
Mm,
because they don't know about it, right? And
mm,
even anxiety disorders. I've talked to quite a few people from other countries, and they go, please explain to me what anxiety is, because I feel
Mm.
bad, but I don't know what I'm going through. You know, so we work with them to try to get through that, right, and identify what's going on.
Wow, yeah, that's right. That's right. So now I'm actually thinking, okay, wondering, um, what are the signs that will help me know that someone has PTSD, or be it a family member? Probably they don't even know what it is that they are struggling with. And just as we've looked at the causes, maybe they went through something traumatic. They've never been able to deal with it, and probably it's maybe the reason why they developed PTSD, and maybe they were just that angry child where everyone said they struggle with anger, but really no one took time to really dig deeper and find out, or get them help. What are these signs and symptoms that will help me know that someone has PTSD?
Well, there's a marked shift in behavior and
Mm,
presentation. So,
yeah.
for example, one might withdraw more often. You're actually aware of the traumatic event that took place in the person's life. So
Yeah.
it's always important to really get to know the symptoms of post-traumatic stress, and as
Mm,
a partner, and monitor that closely. But withdrawal, an increase in agitation, um,
mm-hmm.
startle responses, right?
Yeah.
Waking up with nightmares, no sleep.
Mm-hmm.
You know,
Yeah.
just a total alteration of the atypical behavior that you know with that person.
Mm,
And here's where I like to stop for a second and give give attention to the support her, is what I call them, the supporter, because is if you're in a relationship with somebody who has post traumatic stress,
yeah.
it's going to be hard. Um,
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
it's everything that they seemingly get angry for no reason at all. They start to
Mm,
obsess over certain things and get louder. So
yeah.
there's a walking on eggshells kind of behavior. So what I like to recommend to the supporter is that
Yeah.
it is possible to have a relationship with somebody with post traumatic stress. It's just
Mm,
quite a bit more difficult, and
yes.
you yourself you'll need to um, remove yourself from that situation sometimes, and you'll need professional therapy yourself to
Mm,
try to work your own way through it, because
yes.
it's not easy for the sufferer or the supporter. So I just wanted to put that out there.
Yeah.
But other changes you may see, like they'll stay home, or even they'll eat less or they'll eat more. Their
Mm,
um, their um, intimate life with their partner may increase or decrease.
yes.
Um, drug use, more alcohol use. Um,
Mm-hmm.
so those are all the key ones that are easily observable, I think. Um,
Okay. Oh, okay. I do really love what you said there, that, for supporters, or if you're dating someone who has PTSD, it's also important for you to seek help for yourself, because you'll need it. If you're a
mhm.
caregiver, you really need that support. You need to seek help for yourself as well, because yeah, you need to support this person, and it can also be, yeah, it takes a lot in terms of your emotions and your energy and all that. So it's like going to refill your cup so that you have enough, for this person who
Mhm.
you love and you have to support. So I think that's very, very key, and that's very important. Now, um, talking about treatment. So now, if someone maybe feels uh, the signs that you have shared about, and someone,
Mhm.
looks at them and feels, oh, probably could this be the thing, the one thing that I have been struggling with? What are the treatment options? Where do I start in terms of seeking help or treatment?
Um, Well, one of the best combinations of treatment in terms of effectiveness is, excuse me,
Mm.
is cognitive behavior therapy and mindfulness, for example,
Yeah.
because you're essentially living in the past all the time too, right? An
Mm-hmm.
an anxiety disorder will,
Mm-hmm.
or the component of that PTSD, which is angst,
Yeah.
will always take you back, right? So what's good about
Yes.
mindfulness is that it makes you focus on the now. So as I'm
Yes.
speaking to you, I pay attention to, your glasses, your hair, if I'm having a rough moment
Mm.
or, and also like the cleaner your diet, the better you feel, and
Yeah.
exercise. And
Mm.
of course, medication. Some people are against medication, but
Yeah.
really, from a pharmaceutical point of view, PTSD is not your standard ailment, so it takes a lot. I spent the best part of a year and a half trying to figure
Oh.
out meds, and they still don't work. So I
Mm-hmm.
spent a lot of time passed out on the couch. But but for people, there's many people who respond well to medications, but I don't
Yeah.
recommend just solely one approach. It has to be holistic,
Mm.
and
A
I
mix of
cannot stress
everything.
enough. What's that?
A mix of everything, right?
Yes, anything you could think of that's good for you, do
Mm.
it.
Oh.
Also, what's what I find it makes or breaks people with any mental illness is the support system that they have.
Ah, absolutely.
So,
That's right.
and that's where I have the problem with stigma for sure, because suck it up, you hear it all, right? But um, to all those people who are out there, family members who don't really subscribe to mental health disorders and things, it is real.
Mm.
And the longer you yourself deny that it's real, the longer
Yeah.
the more damage and more isolating, and the more you're pushing the person who's suffering away.
Yeah.
So, like, I have an amazing support system. Like, people have
Mm-hmm.
offered their homes for me to stay in for quiet time, for isolation when I need it, and
Mm-hmm.
I've offered to raise funds for a therapy dog, and it's just
Mm-hmm.
it's amazing. But at the same time, I also surround myself with positivity. I I, I
Wow.
don't I don't let my mental health pull me in that direction of negativity. So
Mm-hmm.
instead of turning to drugs, I turn to purpose, right?
Ah,
Instead
wow.
of instead of instead of booze,
Mm-hmm.
I find passion. So, and that's where the Road to Mental Wellness, the blog, was born,
Yeah.
and all the things that I do. So
Mm-hmm.
you could do yourself a great deal of healing if you say, for
Mm-hmm.
example, and how do you find purpose? Well, the interesting thing about finding purpose is that a lot of us have this purpose that trails deep within us throughout our whole life, trails behind us, right? That we've always wanted to do, but we didn't feel like we were, well, in men's case, man enough, or we think
Yeah.
social pressures to do other things. Or
Mm.
you live in a nation where you don't have much control over the outside environment to find passion.
Mm-hmm.
But um, if you if you nonetheless do those things anyway, like for
Yeah.
me, depression and PTSD have a language, right? And they're always going to tell you, don't exercise, don't
Mm.
eat right. You're depressed, you should eat chips. You know,
Mm-hmm.
that's anxiety's voice, depression's voice. I don't like myself.
Mm-hmm.
That's
Mm-hmm.
what's there to not like about yourself. If you can't really find a logical reason for it, then you're probably being lied to by your disorder, right?
Yeah.
So push past that instead of like, oh, booze because I want to forget. Turn to that
Mm.
passion, like mine was writing. So, and now I was in a collaboration about post-traumatic stress disorder, a book called Lemonade Stand Volume 3. And you
Mm.
can buy that on the Road to Mental Wellness right now if you'd like.
Mm.
And um, so I've written since I was a teenager. The room I'm sitting in right now was my
Mm-hmm.
old room when I was a teenager. And in this very corner, I wrote
That's
songs and short
amazing.
stories. And
Mm-hmm.
but I gave it up because I'm supposed to be a man, right? And you don't talk about your feelings and you don't do this. So um,
Uh-huh.
the yeah, it's interesting. But as I became ill, I was kind of forced to do
Mm,
something. I mean, it was either the darkest side that you could go to, or push towards positivity and
yeah.
purpose, and that's what I've done. And I mean, I've
Mm,
met some wonderful people like yourself, and um,
mhm.
you know, if you have a purpose in front of you, it gives you a reason to get up every day,
Yeah, that's
right?
right. Yes.
If you're not able to work, it gives you routine. It gives you, right. It doesn't matter. We get confused about mental health, so you have to kind of do the opposite of what it's telling you, right? So if
Mm,
if it's I don't want to exercise, guess what? You think of it this way: it's your actual brain's way of telling you need to exercise.
yes.
You know,
Mm,
so all those elements can really push a person forward and
yeah.
can help in their healing journey.
Okay. Wow. I think what you've shared with us is absolutely amazing. And I like one thing you keep saying, push towards positivity, which is true and um, amazing. And, I just love what you've shared. And, number one treatment is just being positive and finding your purpose amidst the mountain, amidst
Mm-hmm.
all that is happening. Don't get lost in it, but find your purpose. So, therapy, practicing mindfulness, yes, that's very important. Nutrition, that's right. Medication, yes, it helps and it plays a role. Exercise, I mean, exercise is also very important for your overall health,
Mm-hmm.
mental health, physical health, and also support system, which is very important. Finding yourself a support system, because the people around you, if you work with people and if you're uh, surrounded by people who really understand what it is that you are going through,
Mm-hmm.
then they're best able to support. And they know, even just knowing, having a support system that knows what they're not supposed to say, and what they're not supposed to do. Because sometimes the people around us, they can be very, they can hurt us, they can hurt someone if they really don't understand what not to
No.
say, and also just the whole thing about stigma, just dealing with the stigma. And actually, that is why this is May, the Mental Health Awareness Month, because we want to really
Mm-hmm.
just stop all this stigma that comes around mental health. And yeah, finding your purpose, I think that is very key. That's very key, that even if
Mm-hmm.
one is going through PTSD or whichever other challenge, it's very important to find our purpose and to, find our passion as well. And I'm so happy that you found your passion. You turned to your passion, which is writing. And yes, you have an amazing blog that you're doing amazing things, and that is very
Well, thank you.
important.
This
So
is a
now
great
that we've talked
platform here
about
that you got going.
stigma and you've also told us about support system, which is very key and very important,
Mm-hmm.
um, what would be your advice for families in terms of, maybe for those who have a loved one who's going through the journey of PTSD, on
Mm-hmm.
their road to mental wellness? What is the one thing you'd say families and friends and spouses or loved ones, how can they best support these people around them? What is your advice regarding that?
Firstly, just before we move on, I will answer that, but I wanted to say that one of the fundamentally most important things is that you don't beat yourself up over feeling a certain way, but you give yourself permission to say, yes, I have depression and I need a day or two in bed. But you got to. I think it's good to set healthy limits to that. So if I spend 2 days in bed, which is not unheard of, I will literally throw myself out of bed and force myself to do something. So we are connected be, uh, creatures. Social connection is really important. So therefore, even if it's a half hour, go out with your best buddy, right? Or you know. But to answer your question of how someone could best support, it's really probably important to do a lot of self care themselves, evaluate um, what they need in their lives to help support themselves, so they could be the best support they can be to somebody. And you have to understand that it's not an easy ride, and some of the behaviors that are manifested as a result of some mental illnesses um, aren't purposeful, right? They're not directed at you to be harmful. That's a really hard pill to swallow when you're a supporter, but like for example, I could be writing, and if somebody starts talking to me, sometimes I get right upset. I literally have to give all my energy to that piece of whatever I'm doing, and it's just a reaction because it's like, oh, you know. So you have to have a good bout of resilience yourself. Um, so, like as a trained helper, somebody with a counseling background and worked in long-term care, and those things, it's absolutely essential that you look after yourself first. And I don't think that's any different for your partner. Um, Also, though, it is important to say, as sad as it can be, that if a person can't handle a person's post-traumatic stress, for example, in their lives, um, it's not an admission that you didn't try. It's just that some people like post-traumatic stress with
Yeah.
tragic incidents. Some people can manage it, other people can't, and that's no different with your partner. So um, I've always, well, I try to minimize my contact with relationships because I feel so bad about those behaviors. But and I think a lot of people do, because PTSD people around here are usually
Yeah.
recluse, right, and on their own. But yeah, there's no shame in saying, like, look, I love you as a partner, and I know the real you is a wonderful human being, but this is just like too much for me. And that can be hard for the sufferer, but at the same time, you don't need two people who are becoming ill, you know. So I, it's not like you can use it as an excuse all the time.
Yeah.
He has this or that, or she has that, so we can't leave. But at the same time, there is room to love somebody, and if you're willing to work together and both put in the work, uh, if the person's not going to put any work in and try to make themselves better, and that can be that doesn't have to be purposeful, like that, I'm not going to bother kind of thing, but sometimes it's too much.
Mm-hmm.
So it's going to be really, really hard if the
Yeah.
person's not. Like I do all those things that I say, like that I brought up: exercise, diet. Well, the diet's been bad since COVID, but I practice what I preach, and it is a lot easier to have relationships when you're looking after yourself. I mean, how can you have a relationship with somebody who stays in bed all day, right? But so social settings, if you're going out, right? I might not. If I was in a relationship with a gal who liked to party and dance and go, I might not be able to do that. So it's no different than somebody who's in a wheelchair user, for example, in that regard. Like, you don't just shove them up the steps or stand them up. You build a ramp, so you
Sorry, John, today my internet, so I had to just switch to another platform because it's just been so sorry about that. That I
That's not a
actually
problem.
Yeah, that I actually just missed. But I love what you've said about how, wow, how families can support someone who has PTSD. Because you can have people around you, but if they don't understand what it is that you're going through, if they don't understand your condition and the kind of support that you need, then they can
Hmm.
end up damaging you instead of helping and supporting you. But yeah, but it's,
It's
yes, mm-hmm,
the support system would apply to any, like, so if what a what a crisis counselor would do, or a therapist, for example, they would be the support around you. They're not to give you. People misinterpret what a therapist's job is. They're not to give you advice, um,
mm,
but they are there to put supports in place that help you um, to get through whatever it is that you're going through. And
yeah,
what people can do on sort of a, like, a partnership basis or a friendship basis is,
mm,
so when you're having a really tough time,
yeah,
what can I do to help? Like, you don't need to solve the problem. The problem is
yeah,
too complicated for most people. And
mm,
so, do you need a ride to your appointment? Or do you feel too overwhelmed
mm,
to to do your laundry? I mean, not that you don't want to disable somebody to the point where you're doing their laundry all the time, but
yeah,
in those
mm,
moments where people need that support, like today, I
yes,
just can't call the phone company, right? But
mm,
my cell phone bill, um, you know, so there's a supportive stance there. You're easing the, the overwhelming feeling. So, like a lot
yeah,
of my friends, if we're out in public and it's
mm,
getting too much, they'll say, "Are you okay? We can leave,"
yeah,
whatever. And
wow,
the other thing is, person with the mental health disorder has to say,
mm,
"Yeah, I do need to leave," right? In my case,
yeah,
right? Or
mm,
every place plays music for some ungodly reason. So what I ask is, I
mm,
bravely go up and I ask them to turn it down because it's too overwhelming. Like, when you get your fight or flight response, and when you think
yeah,
about it, it makes sense, because when your fight or flight response is enhanced,
mm,
or always in gear, um, you put you put music on, you put dishes clanging, you put people talking, you put people walking by. Some people are louder than others, right?
mm,
Some
yeah,
kids crying in the corner, right? That's
mm,
absolute chaos for me. And
oh,
the best way that I can describe it to, like, a layperson or a partner, is that, imagine somebody had a taser. Do you know what a taser is?
mm, yeah,
A low level voltage, and was constantly, like, 25 times a day, just giving you a
mm,
zap out of the blue for
mm,
no reason at all. That would
mm-hmm,
be that would be very aggravating, and that would make you very angry. So sometimes you can react in a very agitated state.
yeah,
So it becomes up to me to customize myself around the world, because I can't
mm,
change the world around me, right? And
wow, wow, mm-hmm. So you
that's
have to
that's the,
customize and
yeah.
just learn to live, just to learn to live and to adjust and to see, you know, how you can, work around things just as they are.
Hmm. Yeah, and it's hard to come to grips if you're in the position I am, where you can't
Yeah.
work.
Mm-hmm.
Um, so that becomes a problem, I think, for some people in relationships.
Mm-hmm.
Um, the idea that you're home all the time, that you should do dishes and clean up the house, that I gladly do that kind of stuff on the days that I feel better, but
Yeah.
there's lots of times where you can't. So,
Mm.
but one of the biggest things that I feel, I don't know what the word is. I don't want, it sounds, disappointment comes to mind, but I don't think it's
Mm.
disappointment.
Mm.
I used to be able to work 7 days a week and was always
Yeah.
busy, and I
Mm.
love that. I miss that, But it becomes an point where you have to accept that you are no longer the person you used to be. I mean,
Mm-hmm.
the neurophysiology of the brain actually changes, and thereby
Yeah.
changes the person. So, I mean, it's not to say that you
Mm.
can't get better. Some people can get way better than others,
Yeah.
but so for a partner and for the
Mm.
person themselves,
Yeah.
it may cause problems that way.
Mm.
Or your friends, your friends want to see you or whatever. But most times, PTSD is pretty well known, as I said here. So, and the
Mm.
majority of the people that I know are um, really supportive because I mean, it's a type
Yeah.
of disorder that you can kind of, even if you don't relate to it, you kind of say, well, seeing somebody burned to death when you were 19 years old, which is what happened
Mm-hmm.
to me. That was my first. Uh, that was my first fatality. Yeah, that would probably mess with someone's head. It's
Yeah.
easy to put those pieces together. So I think it's easy for
Yeah.
people to say, "Oh, I understand,"
Mm.
or we need to move on. I get it, but
Wow. Yeah. Oh my goodness. Okay. Wow. Well, that's quite a lot. And yeah, I think this is a topic that people really need to understand because especially for purposes of support, being a positive support system, because yes, someone who's having to live with PTSD, it must be there's just so much. It's so much, and yeah, the support system means a lot. So it's yeah, as you shared, it's there are a lot of things that um, people who are the support system need to learn or need to be aware of, and even just the way you communicate and how you say things, that's very important.
mhm.
Wow, this has been an amazing, rich conversation, and I can't believe that we are almost at the end of the hour. We just have a few minutes to the end of this live, but yeah, this has been so informative, very, very informative. And thank you for sharing because I believe we've learned personally. I have learned a lot that I didn't know about PTSD. So thank you so much. And I think at the end of the day, my take home is find your purpose.
Mhm.
Find your purpose. No matter where you are in life, what you're going through, don't let the waves of whatever you're going through carry you away. Make sure that in it, while you're finding your help, while you're waiting for things to get better, find your purpose and
Mhm.
find your passion. John just shared he found his passion. The passion of writing is what he picked up and went on with. Yeah, so find your purpose and find your passion. And
Mhm.
that's one thing that really keeps you going. And thank you, John, for really agreeing to come to this live today and agreeing to share with
Absolutely.
us so
No
openly.
problem.
You really shared a lot of personal details and also,
Mhm.
information that is helpful for us who need to support those of our friends and loved ones who are going through this, and just knowing also how to support, how to be there for them, and also just getting to know the signs. That's really important, and the causes, because also understanding that helps us to also extend love, extend love to
Mhm.
those of us around us. So thank you so much. Please give us your parting shot in a minute, then we can close.
What did you say? Sorry.
Your parting shot?
Oh, is that like your final thoughts? Is that the kind of thing?
Yes,
Oh, okay.
that's
Well,
right.
no. What I tell people is that no matter how limited your energy is, you still have a choice where you put it. So initially,
Mm-hmm.
you could put it into alcohol, but why not put it into something that is a positive, healthy distraction? Um, don't be open to if your therapist suggests something, go sure, right? Something might stick. So you always have that opportunity. So it doesn't, you might not be able to run a marathon anymore, but dealing with mental illnesses that are pretty heavy, it's a marathon. It's not a sprint, and those are the things we have to be aware of. And I wanted to dedicate a lot of the time doing this kind of thing, mental health education and all that stuff, because there are so many people that remain silent in the world or don't know because where they're from doesn't doesn't put mental health concerns on the radar as probably as much as it should. So, there's people just like, what's wrong with me? I don't know what's going on, but nobody talks about PTSD, so how would they know? So that's part of the goal here. So if anybody of your viewers ever want to go to the roadtomentalwellness.com and read the multitude of stories there. Also, like Lemonade Stand Volume 3, if you have people in the military emergency services in these countries where it's not well thought of, it'll be a great value to you, because it's 20 authors who are in the military and emergency services who now have PTSD. You'll find commonalities and you won't feel alone. So it's really a great book that way. And I guess I'll leave it like that.
All right. Wow. Thank you. So yes, please, viewers, go to the roadtomentalwellness.com and read about, John has shared a lot about mental wellness and PTSD, just a lot that is very informative. Yeah. So please go there and, get to see what he's written. And yes, there's a lot to learn there. So thank you so much. I am so grateful that you could join us today.
Most welcome.
I'm also really grateful to our viewers, those who joined us today, and also those who will be watching this later. I am super grateful that you could join this conversation. So this is Mindspace, and we meet here every Tuesday, 7 p.m. Kenyan time. That's my time here. I don't know. What's your time, John, in Canada?
1:57.
1:57. So yes, that's 1:57 p.m. And this is 7:57 p.m. So I don't know, can't really try. I think that's about 9 or 10 hours difference. Yeah, but every Tuesday we meet here for these conversations because,
If you have me back on the show, we can talk about the commonalities that are present around the world and how we can unite around them instead of being divisive, because that's fundamentally important.
Absolutely. I believe that's very important. So let's have that conversation probably in very soon. Let's come back here and have that conversation.
You let me know when I'll come back on.
All right, sure, I will. Thank you so much. So now say good night. Okay, this is good night because it's Nairobi, it's Kenya. But
good day,
please
good
do
night.
have a night.
Good evening.
Good afternoon to you, John. And yes, once again, I'm so grateful that you could join us. So it's a goodbye from me, our viewers, and see you next week on Tuesday for another conversations and another chat on the same topic, mental wellness. Thank you so much and goodbye for now.
Take care.